Allison and friends. This video is a bit rushed today because I just got back from a week away with no internet and I'm in the process of moving. Hopefully this will get out tonight. If not, you'll get to punish me. Yay! So in Europe from the 13th century to the 18th century, the church and the secular courts put a lot of animals on trial. Back then, we believed that the animals had the agency to do this or the devil took them over. Often it was the devil took them over. The devil did everything. That was bad. The animals were treated the same as accused humans. They got all the same rights as accused humans, including lawyers. The animals that were most often accused were domesticated animals or vermin. The most common defendant was actually pigs. This was probably because the farmers allowed them to wander around wherever they went, so they had more opportunity to mess with people. Some animals were found innocent or pardoned, which is kind of a strange thought, but might make more sense when I go into some actual trials in a minute. The ones that were convicted were either executed, which meant hung or burned, or they were excommunicated, which I'm sure the animals were heartbroken to learn about. And here's some interesting trials for your enjoyment. In Falaise, France in 1386, a pig was convicted of murdering an infant. The pig was hung like every other criminal who was convicted of a similar crime, and her 6 piglets were convicted of being accessories to the murder. But they were pardoned due to their youth and their mother's bad influence. Now, some lawyers were actually able to make their careers on animal trials. In the early 1500s, a lawyer named Bartholomew Chesnay, excuse the bad French pronunciation, represented some rats. The rats were accused of eating and destroying some barley, which at the time was a felony. Chesnay did some impressive lawyer logic and dancing and managed to postpone the trial over and over again, once convincing a judge that it was too dangerous for his clients to come into town, because, guess what, there were too many cats around. This legal maneuvering made him famous over France, and pretty much every defendant wanted to hire him after this. The Grand Vicar of Valenciennes in France accused some caterpillars of destroying his crops. The caterpillars failed to appear in court, and a lawyer was appointed. Caterpillars were found guilty. The caterpillars were then banished from the diocese. In Basel, Switzerland, a rooster was accused of sorcery. The reason was it had laid an egg, and a rooster egg was considered very important in sorcery. The rooster was found guilty and burned at the stake. In 1451, in Switzerland, the church put some leeches on trial for being in a pond. Not because they had sucked anyone's blood or anything like that, there just were too many of them. After being convicted, the leeches were piled up in court and told they had 3 days to leave. Most of these trials were in Europe, as I said. There was at least one in the New World. This was overseen by Cotton Mather, which you'll recognize his name if you know pretty much anything about the Salem witch trials. He oversaw a good portion of those. The main defendant was a human, Potter, but he was accused of bestiality. What almost always happened in bestiality cases was the animal that they fooled around with, or was accused of fooling around with, also was on trial. Potter was accused of bestiality going back 50 years. Potter was found guilty and executed along with all of his surviving partners, victims, whichever term you want to use, which included about 3 cows, 3 sheep, and 2 pigs. And there are a lot of other trials you can look up. I just thought I'd share a few fun ones with you. And there are a lot of reasons these trials could have been so prevalent at the time. And you can't just say it's because these people weren't educated like we are. It could have been humans trying to exert further control over nature, especially in a time that was certainly rampant in disease. It could also have been the developing legal system stretching their muscles. They may have been a bit too eager to use their new toys. It could also have been a prelude or a part of the better-known witch trials. A lot of these animals were accused of being familiars and burned at the stake, much like witches were.